yet ultimate peace, serenity. Making our visitors happy is about building experiences specifically designed to leave them with feelings and memories worth sharing. Feelings and vibrations that make them think about us. Maybe in a conversation or a different country, but may they always have a smile when they're thinking about us. Curaçao.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Good afternoon. Welcome to a Chapa Academy webinar. Today we have our second webinar of the week. Today we have Peggy from Grant Thornton, who is going to give a very interesting, I've seen a couple of hints already about the presentation, and it looks very entertaining yet educational. So I'm very excited to see this webinar myself. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Peggy to all of you.
Hey, you guys, good afternoon. I'm just going to take over the screen and then I'll guide you through this webinar today. Yes, I would like to continue. Here you go. So now you have my screen, right? So yes. I'm Peggy Cecilia Spong. I am a manager from Manager Advisory from Grant Thornton. And today I'll be talking about leanership. But before I'm going to explain what it is, I would like to introduce myself. So I am a Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt. And for those who are unknown to Lean Six Sigma, it's a combined methodology of Lean and Six Sigma. Both are continuous improvement business methodologies. And Lean has the focus on reducing waste in a process, and Six Sigma has the focus on reducing defects and variation. You can also call it a quality improvement kind of tool. I've been doing this for over 10 years now. I'm experienced in also coaching in Lean and Lean Six Sigma, training, but also improving businesses and processes and companies and stuff like that. Besides that, I also coach Lean leadership on how to lead teams effectively, but only from a Lean perspective. Just some ground rules before I continue. Please stay muted. I think the whole webinar is muted. If you have any questions, drop it in the chat box or mail me. On every slide you will see in the lower left corner, you will see our email address, so you can mail us. If you drop a question in the chat box, please mention your email address so I can reach you if I'm not able to answer your question right away. And after the last question, please just stick around for 3 more minutes. I have a nice video to close off this webinar. So with no further ado, our leanership concept is part of the Dragonfly experience. And when it comes to transformation, you probably all know the story of the butterfly from caterpillar to cocoon, becoming mush, and then after 10 to 8 days, it becomes a beautiful butterfly, and it's the most used metaphor for growth and transformation. Today, I'd like to share with you another story. It's the story of the dragonfly, also known as the Jeje empapiamiento or the doppie doppie. The dragonfly lives almost 5 years underwater, breathing through his gills like a fish. And in underwater form, it's called a nymph. The muddy waters are dangerous and dirty, but still most of his life he lives submerged. When the time is right, this nymph leaves the muddy waters and decides it's time for its transformation. There is still no scientific reason when they are getting out of the muddy waters. It's just from one day to the other. He crawls onto a leaf and lets his body dry in the sun, and seamlessly making the transformation from breathing underwater to breathing open air. After his skin dries, He transforms within the dried skin into a dragonfly. And once he's completed, he's this magical animal with iridescent colors, and he can fly in 6 directions. So upwards, downwards, sideways, front and back. That's really impressive. Because of this story, we chose the dragonfly as a symbol, because just like the dragonfly, the vast majority of the leaders, or anyone in particular, their career path might feel like they're submerged on the water. So with the dragonfly experience, we will provide insights and tools to further transform you into an inspiring leader. I would like to give more information regarding the leadership model on the left. So that's the purple one you see. It's in 4 parts. So I have culture, which leadership, communication, empowerment, and teamwork. We got lean philosophy, principles, wastes, mindset, experimenting. We got the lean tools, the 5S, the 5 times why, the value stream mapping, Kaizen, standard work. And we got strategy with the Hoshan Kanri, the organizational goals, the strategy deployment, the policy deployment, and the goal deployment. So leadership is a combination of the 4. And today I'll be talking about the 2 upper items. So about culture and about leadership, and partly about lean. So in the next slide, I will talk about lean. I will elaborate a little bit more on lean. Lean is about challenging the way things are done and opening your eyes to the waste and the inefficiency in your process. The environment in which an organization operates will continue to change, and especially after a crisis, challenging how things were done becomes vital, and there's a need for a new normal. Lean is both philosophy and a methodology. The lean methodology is about continuously improving work processes, purposes, people, and instead of trying to hold on to control of work and keep the spotlight, lean management encourages shared responsibilities and shared leadership. Lean is hard on the process, soft on the people. You try to improve fact-based, data-driven. The lean methodology relies on a few very simple ideas. We deliver value from your customer's perspective. We respect for people. We eliminate waste, and waste can be in any form. So it can be the defects you have in your process. It can be the waiting time for your customer. It can be inventory. It can be transportation or motion. It can be over-processing. So if 3 people are doing the same work, it can be overproduction if you make too much. And it can be skills, the skill set of the people. So if somebody is too high skilled for a job that's lower skilled, or the other way around, when the job has a higher competence level than the person doing the job. And the last idea of lean is continuous improvement. Lean has 5 principles. That's the ones you see on the right. So you specify value from the standpoint of the customer. You identify all the steps in the value stream, eliminating whenever possible those steps that do not create value. You make the value creating steps occur in a tight sequence so the product will flow smoothly towards your customer. So no obstructions and no delay. As flow is introduced, let your customer pull value from the next upstream activity. And as value is specified, value streams are identified, wasted steps are removed, and full flow and pull are introduced. Begin the process again and continue until the state of perfection, or at least a state without waste. So the 5 principles are value, value stream, flow, pull, and perfection. Lean leadership, though, is mostly on how to lead, not how to have the insights on the type of person you are and your personal values, your strengths as a leader. This is where the double helix seamlessly fits lean. And that's what I'm going to talk about after the question I have for you guys now, because like Gideon said, this is quite interactive. I have your first question ready for you right now. So what is lean? Lean is mean, or lean is an FTE reduction. Lean is continuous improvement, or lean is project management. You can make a choice, so it's either one of the 4.
Yes, we're getting the results. 46.
Getting the results, yeah.
So far.
So we'll wait just like 30 seconds and then we'll continue.
Perfect.
Oh, no. So I have a result of 93% of people saying lean is continuous improvement, and it's true. Lean truly is improving your process. Lean is not mean, even though it's really popular. It's really a popular used phrase. Lean is not used to reduce your workforce. Lean is used to reduce the waste in your process. And if it means that people will be put in another position in the company, that's all about lean. And lean is not project management, for sure. So you guys passed the first question. So I'm going to continue with the double helix. So in the leadership development, we deep dive into the core of the leader, your values, the things that shape you as a human, and your drives. This method, the double helix method, is based on a video learning, getting to the core with 3-minute video fragments while cycling through your own hero's journey. Grant Thornton has an experienced double helix trainer, Roy Jansen, and together we created the Dragonfly experience, combining lean and leadership, and thus the rise of Leanership with an N. You can see it on the slide, just a couple of slides further, you will see it. We see society changing. We see that all securities are disappearing. And we see that the era of me is coming to an end, and purpose, values, and interactivity take a central position in the workplace. This means that leadership development and organizational change can no longer be designed in a top-down manner, but have to be designed based on a community of stakeholders. Keywords are facilitating, serving, and value-driven leadership. This involves supporting communities, motivated people who bear the responsibility for organizational development and who interactively or actively shape their own development. But let's talk a bit about the hero's journey now from Joseph Campbell. So that's the middle image you see, the green one. All stories from fairy tales and dreams and books and movies and myths, they consist of a common structural element of stages. And these are the 12 stages composed in the hero's journey from Joseph Campbell. The double helix model has another dimension added to this hero's journey, the levels of the human development. That's the one you see on the right with the ribbons. Double helix defined 8-level ages, universality, and then the 0 to 12 age, the 12 to 24, and so on until the last phase of 72 to 84 years. In every level of our human development, we pass through some or all of the 12 phases of the hero's journey, depending on our development in life, people we encounter, situations we're in. So this model truly grasps the essence of you as a human being and essentially you as a leader, a parent, a teacher, or any other profiling role in which you set an example for other people or you have a group of people following you. So this training is not only for the persons who have a manager on their business card. This is also for you teachers out there and for, I think even moms and dads, because managing your kids is like managing your department. As we grow older, pressing from one level to the other, we keep repeating the phases and the steps with increasingly higher level of awareness, responsibility, and compassion. Each step in the training is captured in several 3-minute movies, getting to the essence of what this step means to you. I will explain to you in a movie I'll be showing right now. And after the movie, I'll give you some more insights on how it works. The movie I will show you is an example of the second step called the call to adventure, a video fragment we use in the training. So I'm gonna play it for you now.
I was looking for an answer. It's the question that drives us near. It's the question that brought you here. You know the question, just as I did.
What is the matrix?
The answer is out there, Nino. It's looking for you. And it will find you if you want it to.
You have a problem with authority, Mr. Anderson. You believe that you are special, that somehow the rules do not apply to you. Obviously, you are mistaken. This company is one of the top software companies in the world because every single employee understands that they are part of a whole. Thus, if an employee has a problem, the company has a problem. The time has come to make a choice, Mr. Anderson. Either you choose to be at your desk on time from this day forth, or you choose to find yourself another job. Do I make myself clear?
Yes, Mr. Reinhardt, perfectly clear.
Thomas Anderson?
Yeah, that's me.
Okay. Great. Have a nice day.
So the call to adventure sets the story rolling by disrupting the comfort of the hero's ordinary world. So that was step 1 in the phases, in the 12 phases. Presenting a challenge or quest that must be undertaken, the call throws the ordinary world off balance and establishes the stakes involved if the challenge is rejected. The call to adventure can take a multitude of forms. It can be a message or an announcement, like in the movie The African Queen. It could be a sudden storm, like in the movie Home Alone. The arrival of the villain in High Noon, an abduction from Star Wars, or a man's dying words from Citizen Kane. The hero may need a series of calls before finally realizing that a challenge must be met or that his only means of escape is the special world. Many times the hero needs to choose between 2 conflicting calls, and in this example, Neo receives 3 calls to accept the challenge and go to the Matrix, and 1 call to remain the same, being his boss asking him to be in time the next time. So I would like to do a poll with you guys again. So the next slide will be a question again. Let me check it. So, is a 3-minute video learning more effective than reading a book? You can either choose between fact or fiction. So 74% voted fact, and it's a fact. It is true. Reading is an active process, whereas watching is a passive one. And one needs a lot more attention while reading a book than that of watching videos. The reason for slowness in the process of reading is though the results of retention of information. Studies have shown that the human brain retains more information when gained over a long period, but books are considered more accurate, more careful, and objective as compared to videos. But videos are more effective though. So I would like to continue on a little bit more on the leadership before I go to the 8 R's, which also fit within our model. So leadership is to inspire, discipline, and connect. We already established that one, but it's also critical for Lean to succeed. But where do you start? First of all, you connect with yourself, because in order to lead others, you must first get in touch with yourself. It means knowing your vulnerabilities, knowing yourself, being a good connector and a good match between your personal core values and those of the organizations. Great questions you can ask yourself in this stage are, do you know your main drivers? Do you know what you need to improve to act more effectively? To what extent do you feel connected with the vision and the strategy of your organization? And would you hire yourself knowing would you hire yourself if you know the stuff you know about yourself? So being honest. The second part is connecting with your people. Leaders are able to connect with others through common interests and common purpose. This connection is necessary to create value for a customer and value for your company. Leaders have to connect with sincere attention, open attitude, and intense listening. Great questions you can ask yourself is, am I sincerely interested in other people and what happens within my organization? Do I trade often and effectively even though, do I trade often and effectively even enough to connect people and departments? And am I open enough for feedback and do I give great feedback? So the third part is determine direction. A good leader listens to his people before determining direction. They set clear frameworks, guard the course, carry it out, and monitor this. Questions to think about. Did I communicate the vision and the strategy of the company? Have I been able to translate this into goals and responsibilities? And what is my contribution daily? And did I make my short and long-term goals really ambitious? And I would say also realistic. Then we go to the part of the execution in which you have to be consistent by stimulating and facilitating improvement initiatives, being transparent and manage your people daily to take care of the execution of the course. In this stage, and particularly in this stage, I love the voordoen, samen doen, zelf doen principle. Up till last week, I didn't know the English translation for it, so my husband provided that one for me. And it's the I do, we do, you do, in which first I show you how it's done, then we do it together, and in the end, you will do it yourself and I will monitor and see if you're doing it right. This is a really nice way to coach people on the job and to stimulate and facilitate them within their process and to achieve great execution. Great questions to think about. Imagine myself daily, what value I create for my people and for my customers. And then the outer ring, which is working towards a better future. Leaders who work for a better future take their responsibility and continue to ensure sustainable changes. Questions to think about. Do I have an eye for signals in the market and for the society? Do I take responsibility and can I be addressed on my contribution for my organization and the society? Do I enable people to build sustainable networks with clients and partners? But how does this model work for Lean and for Double Helix? So I'm going to show you let's see. Yeah, now it's working. So the Double Helix part takes care of the connecting with yourself and the connecting with your people. It's all about the human being behind yourself and the human being within your teams. Lean, on the other hand, Lean is the how part. How to determine direction, how to execute, how to monitor. It's also a little bit on the connecting part with the people, but not as thoroughly as the Double Helix would do it. So this is the way we combined Lean with Double Helix, making it a full model, working on the soft side of people, working on the soft skills of people, and working on the process improvement part of people. We as Curaçao we are going through this phase of returning back to the office. And Tuesday, I attended an interesting webinar on psychological effects of going back, the fears, the excitement, the hesitations, the doubt. And yes, I felt it Tuesday as well. It was strange going back to the office after 9 weeks. But how do you as a leader recognize the end of a present crisis? Amongst others, there are indications like the news media is now covering the story or the organization has returned to its operational routine. For Curaçao, the lift of restrictions was for us the signal, maybe not the ending of a crisis, but the beginning of a new normal. I'll be passing through 8 R's on how to prepare and deal after a crisis as a leader. But mind you, like I said before, being a parent is also being a leader, and being a teacher is also being a leader. So you don't per se have to be in a leadership role or have the management title on your business card to use these 8 R's. The 8 R's are based on best practices from the US military. And for those who know Roy Jansen, who partnered up with me on making this leadership model, it's truly a coincidence that these military best practices fit the model so well. So the first two, the two important goals of leadership following a crisis are to rebuild and strengthen relationships. Not only relationships with your organization, but also relationships within the organization. Learn from the experience in order to prepare for the next crisis. And you can also integrate this in your GRC dashboard. And keep in mind, every company goes through crisis one time or the other, whether it's a financial crisis, economic crisis, a lot of people leaving your company. These are stuff you can always use whenever your company is going through some turmoil. In working towards those goals, one of the most effective things leaders can do after the crisis is assure employees that the probability of the same crisis reoccurring is virtually non-existent. Well, I'll come back to that in a second because we're dealing with quite a unique situation in Curaçao. If you don't reassure your people, the anxiety levels will remain high in the organization and significantly impact your morale and the productivity in your organization. Leaders at all levels should talk to employees and personally share what preventive measures are being taken to avert another crisis. This allows the employees to ask questions. In the COVID-19 situation, though, leadership cannot guarantee reoccurrence, whether it's coming back or not. They can guarantee, though, an adequate approach if it may surface again, like for instance, in a second wave. These assurances can be a first step in rebuilding and reviewing the organization's communication strategies. Clear and continuing communication is as essential after a crisis as it is before and during. The idea of rebuilding also extends to operational issues. You should take that into consideration. Items such as financial costs, cleanup, reconstruction, public relations, recognition and rewards, overtime, and others. Words that come to mind in this stage are your employee heartbeat, the customer heartbeat, and the state of mind. Major challenge for the organization's leaders after a crisis is determining all of the causes of the crisis. This is important because if it's not done well or not done at all, the crisis could reoccur. Seldom a crisis has a single cause. In the case of a pandemic, there is no clear point of failure. So the review part should not be on your crisis, but you could review how the organization and leadership handled the crisis. And this should start with a formal or informal assessment of the workforce's emotional state. Some employees may be still in emotional distress and leaders will want to address those needs. The organization's leadership will want to make sure that the right tools are in place. For example, it might be smart to have counselors available to encourage workers to take advantage of therapy. Leaders of all levels of the organization can do their part by walking around, making themselves available to encourage, support, and listen to employees. Because a personal approach does more than only strengthening communication lines. Communication procedures and organizational policies aren't the only items which might require review and revision following a crisis. Leaders will want to reconsider the organization's visions and values. How did they fare during the crisis? Did they help the organization weather the storm, or did they hinder the organization's responses? In the post-crisis period, leaders should also reflect on the deeper meaning of the crisis and how it changed the organization, the culture, the employees. Some questions for leaders to consider at this stage include the following. What remains the same and what has changed? What changes are complete and what changes are still ongoing? What will never be the same? You should really be realistic about that one. What are the organizational and cultural adaptations that must be made? Who was most impacted by the event and how are they doing now? A nice example for Curaçao is the working from home and the working flexible hours and the working full digital. Will this stay in place after and during the recovery? Reflecting on the state of relationships is another meaningful activity after a crisis. Relationships that might have been damaged or stressed during, So I was talking about the working from home. Will it stay in place or will it remain after recovery? Or reflecting on the state of relationships is another meaningful activity after a crisis, because relationship might have been damaged or stressed during the crisis and you will need to rebuild and re-strengthen them. Leaders will also have to turn their attention to the operational need of the organization after a crisis. For example, some crises may demand cleanup, recovery, repair, rebuilding, removing, or reorganizing. In the final analysis, at the end of the day, it's all about people. Because of its intense nature, a crisis triggers emotions, which signals a threat to one or more basic human needs. These needs include such things as safety, security, and self-esteem. So I'm going to the last two R's, last and certainly but not least, restore and reinvigorate. Even if the organization's leader handled the crisis very well, they and the organization should be prepared for potentially negative consequences. And you can think about stuff like reputation that has been damaged or lawsuits that may result, stock values that may dip, bad reviews on social channels, key leaders and employees leaving the company, and other problems and challenges that may persist after the crisis. To effectively practice crisis leadership, you can't stop at preparation. You can't let yourself be tossed about by the chaos during a crisis, and you can't rest when the crisis has passed. You have to meet the needs of the people in the organization, and the leaderships must be constantly learning and adapting their way. Prepare upfront to be ready whenever a crisis hits. Close the circle, use your plan, do, check, act. Words that come to mind: give new energy, give strength, and use the momentum. To sum it all up, all these 8 R's in the concluding remarks, leaders want to be as effective as possible during a crisis, and they don't want to start from scratch or learn as they go, especially not during the crisis. Like I said before, in the end, it's all about people. Leaders can develop necessary skills when times are calm and operations are normal, and they should be aware of the 3 most important factors before, during, and after a crisis. It's about communication, effective, pervasive communication. They want to first and foremost communicate with their employees, and second, they want to communicate with external stakeholders such as clients, customers, and suppliers. And with clarity of vision and values, are you always upholding your values? Are you always upholding your vision and act upon them? Because both in normal times and in times of crisis, the vision and the values provide an anchor and a sense of security for employees. And last of all, a sense of caring. When you act in ways that are consistent with those values and that vision, they build trust and they ensure mutual respect. They create connections between people in the organizations at all levels. And those relationships act as a buffer and reinforcements during a crisis. You know, remember the first model I showed you about connecting with yourself and connecting with your people, and care about your people. Appeal to the sense of loyalty, appeal to their courage and their morality, listen and respond to the needs of your team, treat people with sincere consideration and genuine concern, with dignity, honesty, trust and respect, accepting others for what they are without judging, and remaining professionally competent as possible. Remember, leaders influence others in a crisis very much like they would in normal operations. The primary difference between normal times and crisis situations is that leadership actions are accelerated amplified, and more visible, and the results of leadership action generally have a higher impact when they are taken in the midst of a crisis. So with these lessons in mind, leaders can turn the chaos of a crisis into the promise of opportunity and lead people from the turmoil of crisis into successful perseverance of a resilient learning organization. Before I leave you guys, before I end this webinar, guys, I would truly like to thank you for your online presence, and I'd like to thank Chata for this opportunity. Last but certainly not least, I would like to thank the Grant Thornton's leadership team for being a great example during difficult times. I would love it if you guys stick around just a couple of more minutes. I have one more question left, and then I'm closing off with another three-minute movie clip from the double Healix training before I hand over to Gideon. So once again, thank you very much, and I hope to meet you online or in person very soon. So thank you guys for the poll. I will share my last video and then I'll hand over to Gideon, and I wish you a very nice afternoon.
I know you're out there. I can feel you now. I know that you're afraid. You're afraid of us. You're afraid of change. I don't know the future. I didn't come here to tell you how this is going to end. I came here to tell you how it's going to begin. I'm going to hang up this phone, and then I'm going to show these people what you don't want them to see. I'm going to show them a world without you. A world without rules and controls, without borders or boundaries. A world where anything is possible. Where we go from there is a choice I leave to you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Peggy. It's great to see these movie fractions incorporated in presentations. Yes, once again, I want to thank you so much for this opportunity. And I hope all the attendees have had the opportunity to learn from this method you have presented, especially in these times. Many people have returned to their offices, and it might be a little strange to be back, but obviously we need to reflect and try to improve our situations. So once again, I want to thank you, Peggy, and everybody. Stay pending for more Chata webinars to come in the upcoming week. And yes, I want to wish you all a very nice afternoon. Peggy, for you too.
You too. Thank you for the opportunity.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye, guys.